October the 2nd, 2025 at 1:02 p.m. Do we have approval of the agenda? So I recommend that the Housing Committee meeting agenda for October 2nd, 2025 be approved as circulated. Second by Malcolm, okay. Adoption of the minutes. Recommendation that the minutes of the Housing Committee meeting held on November the 7th, 2024 be adopted. Okay. First, second. All those in favor? Missed that part on the first one. Okay, it's been since November.
Yeah, it has been.
Okay, new business. I am pleased to introduce, I have two new Housing Committee members. We have Eileen Boyd here to my left, so welcome.
Welcome.
And Councillor Beach, who is not yet in attendance, but welcome, Pam.
Hi, Pam.
And we will now continue on with the secondary dwelling plans. And June, would you please take over?
Thank you. Through the chair, just want to give a quick update on the progress of a secondary pre-reviewed plan library project. As shared and depicted through the staff memo circulated and attached to the Housing Committee's agenda, McDermott has successfully completed the 3 drawing set the community selected, and those as per built drawing sets are ready, and it has went through the building officer's vetting. There were little minor aspects that building officers pointed out, which were rather more of a drafting matters, which could be addressed in process of a building permit reviewing process in form of a markup drawing. So those are deemed as relatively minor. So if the committee deems it appropriate, so those 3 drawing sets from McDermott are ready to go and finalized. Little update on housing. The planning team has not been received the 3 drawings from housing, the other proponent who was involved with this project. Staff anticipates to connect with the owner of the housing to inquire if he desired to terminate the project at this point or continue producing the drawings. There are a number of the budget that could be reallocated to if the housing chooses to terminate the project. So those additional unspent budget allocated for the housing could go to the calibration of the minor drafting matters for the McDermott, although it may not be necessary. Just want to provide the additional update as the following project may be relevant to our pre-reviewed plan library project. Although they are not recognized by the community as of today, there are other resources, one from a provincial and then the other is from federal. So I just want to quickly show the number of drawings. So the first one that we are seeing here is from a CMHC. So that's a federal project. And then the following arrangement of the drawings are still in progress to finalize the as per built drawings, but is kind of coming in process. So CMHC has produced a number of a dwelling right now at the more of a preliminary design stage right now. But depending on the municipalities depending on province and or territories, they have produced a number of themes there. So what we see, the 7 designs from here is particularly made for the British Columbia. So there are a number of drawings that we may consider adding it to the pre-reviewed plan library. So right away, we can see that accessory dwelling unit number 1 and then number 2, and then duplex design. Those are something that we can consider. And those are the design that would confirm right away to the R-1 general residential zoning, thanks to the SSMUH update that we did last year. Just moving on to the provincial one. So there are a number of provincial design, which as per built drawing as at the present is already available. So should there is a person or desire so to utilize those plans readily available from the province, those are pretty much good to go. It has not been recognized by the community, but anybody who is interested in finding a as-built drawing or the plan layout, even at the preliminary manner, can utilize those resources. So at this present time, what committee may continue to work on is implementation or consideration on the aspect to corroborate the policies or the way to incentivize the use of the drawing or encourage the infill development. The reason behind of it is pre-reviewed plan library is just a library capturing number of the drawings. So if there is not much incentivization or the method to encourage people to consider it, it's just a drawing without any use. So the next step for the committee at this point would be to consider how we can encourage community to move on to consider the use of the drawing and then the development of policies or the program that incentivize the use of it. That's it for the first memo.
Okay. Questions?
Could we talk about the potential incentives? How to incentivize that?
You can, sure.
So bureaucracy is one, you know, I mean, monetary is one, but just the fact that they're fast track, they're pre-approved, ready to build. So we could promote how much faster you could build a house using a pre-approved drawing.
Yeah, that's good. Anybody else have any comments? Siobhan?
Not a comment on that, but maybe a question for June. So budget's coming up. I think we were at 18,000 for housing this year. Is that correct? My laptop's not working right now, so Dean, what did we put into housing this year? It's 18 grand, I believe.
That's correct.
Okay, so I think one of the things is happening, which never happens, there was BC and federal government always download, but now we're uploading. So they're telling us what to do. And we're putting this money into the pre-plans, but then BC is also, and the federal government is also giving us pre-plans. So when we go into budget time, does housing need that money? And should we be investing in plans moving forward? Because our past meeting, we talked about doing, so we did our first 3 plans, and then we were looking at kind of different ways that we could change housing. But if the BC government's doing it and the federal government's doing it, does Sicamous need to put 18,000? And not that I ever want to take money away from anything, but do we need that money?
Yes.
Thank you. Through the chair, it's not my particular, I don't have any discretion to make such call, but money can be, or the housing committee's budget could be used in the other form that may contribute to the project. As in, I will going to touch up with the second memo that I prepared. It's related to the housing implementation strategies. So although last year we have spent our budget for the acquisition of such drawings, but next year's budget, maybe if there is community interested for, then we may do more of a staff and then committees public information sessions just to raise more awareness or provide explanation on each provincial and federal incentives and how it means to each regular building permit applications. So there is a different method that we can use to have a similar discussion, but not worrying too much on the drawing aspect.
Okay. I think it's positive that the province and the feds have stepped up with plans, and I think it's great because it just gives more variety. Yes.
Sorry, through the chair. So June, so what you're saying is with our 18 grand, instead of putting that to maybe drawings or something like that, we continue to use provincial and fed, but we use that money for education.
Yes.
Okay.
Or
Yes.
thank you, through the chair. Or as briefly mentioned, the actual matter that would make our pre-reviewed plan library project successful is to make community to use those drawings. So we can spend more time of development of the policies or the incentives in particular to those matters. So the staff may, if there is a desire from the community, may invest some time to work on the zoning bylaw level, which, as we were going to briefly mention in the second memo, there is a anticipated zoning bylaw update following up with the official community plan update end of this year. So we may invest more time, the staffing time, to consider maybe additional setback relaxations or consideration of the reduction of the DCC if there is a great desire for.
Right.
So there is a many different method that we can reallocate that budget.
Okay, that was gonna be my question is, can you reallocate it? Does it have to be within the housing portfolio or can it be anywhere?
Regarding that budget
Okay,
aspect,
okay,
I'm not an expert, so that may require finance, CFO and Dean,
Okay.
of course, Nicole's discretion. I don't know the way the siloed budget could move around and it can be reallocated,
okay,
but that was just the principle that we could use the housing budget for something else, but achieve the similar.
okay. But it is a process and that's fine. That's good.
Yes, right through the chair again, just still on this. Nicole, probably a year and a half ago, we were talking about that there were some grants coming through. I know it was staff. That there were grants that we had to incentivize this. Are those still happening with the BC government and federal? I honestly haven't looked it up. Thanks.
Yes.
There was big infrastructure grants that were being proposed. They didn't come to fruition. Province chose not to invest the money in that. They put it into BC Housing.
Okay.
So they put it in directly into project funding. So we may see some more projects in our community as a result of more BC Housing funding, but they did not fund municipalities for infrastructure in the way that local governments were hoping. So a lot of communities were hoping that they would fund capital projects. If you fund the capital projects within our DCC program, for example, you can then lower your DCC because you don't have to fund that project. So the idea was, okay, we have sewer at $52 a square foot. We can drop it down to $22 a square foot if the province gives us a grant for our sewer main upgrade. That's the idea. Unfortunately, the province didn't choose to do that. They chose to do their own initiatives through BC Housing and not fund infrastructure in local governments at this point. Maybe they will.
Okay, I have one question to follow that. Is the National Housing Fund still providing somewhat of a grant? There was a national one that was 40,000 or did they drop theirs because it was municipally done?
National Housing Program has shifted their gears to national lands.
Okay,
They're doing large-scale housing projects on federal lands, none of which have been selected for British Columbia.
okay,
So they've chosen to push their housing initiative monies into federal lands and develop housing projects. So these would be similar to what we saw with Calgary with Garrison Crossing.
right.
These big defense lands, those would be the kinds of projects. We wouldn't see anything, certainly not in Sycamus, but I don't even know if we'll see any in BC at all.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. June?
Thank you. Through the chair. Speaking of the grant and an earlier comment from Councillor Makayev, there is I think, provincial grant where it could be used for the development services procedural bylaw or some sort of policies to be improved upon. So I believe there is a provincial grant available or would be available for making, not just for the directly housing related stuff, but in overall of making the application reviewing or the process of permitting to be more effective. So there is a grant for that, I believe. So we could also looking at acquiring this grant to improve our existing policies or the reviewing criteria.
Okay, thank you. Siobhan, did you have another?
No, that's, she answered. Thank you, June.
Just a quick
Okay.
comment. That grant opportunity is definitely a good opportunity to look at. With Sycamus, with the scale that we have, our efficiency is pretty hard to create much more efficiency than, we only had 2 or 3 permits a month. The processing times to have us go to like an electronic permitting system, which is what this is intended to do, The returns are just not there. Going to electronic permitting system would be not a good thing for Sycamus to do. It's a significant investment, not just through the grant, but also for the municipality. And do you need electronic tracking filing system at this point in this community? I wouldn't suggest you do. I know that Kelowna and some bigger communities are doing that. It costs them, well, literally millions of dollars to implement those programs. And they're trying to reduce the processing time, but the volume of applications, they get 1,000 planning applications a year. They get 1,500 to 2,000 building permits in a year. So the volume is there where the efficiencies become sort of connected.
Right.
I don't think we're in that scenario, but I think there's some other opportunities we can look at for efficiencies in our processing and so forth. We're going to do anyways. I don't know if the grant is going to come in as a factor, but definitely something we want to keep on the radar.
Okay. Yes, June? June?
Thank you. One of the other aspect that I believe the district collectively is working on is improvement on a delegated authority bylaw. So that is something in relation to the process that could save a lot of time at the perspective of the proponent. So for example, the reason why we may do an additional zoning bylaw update following year is because of to fine tune and then better ensure better alignment to the provincial directions. So in general, at the staff level, what we have been finding often is that some of the building permit application, which seems to be a simple one from the public perspective, often also triggers the consideration of a development permit or development variance permits. And then sometimes the development variance permits, what the proponent is looking for is a very minor, like a setback relaxation of require 1.5 to 1.4, something like that. And as of today, because of the district doesn't practice the delegated authority, we have to bring, although it's a very minor nature of a relaxation, we are required to bring it to the councillors level. So in the future, I personally don't fathom where that delegated authority bylaw is at, but that was something that I believe we identified even at the interim housing need assessment report process. So that I think we will continue to work on, so that once that is completed, then I wouldn't say most majority, but fair number of building permit application can be processed much faster than waiting for 2 or 3 additional weeks to go through a notification and council consideration.
Right, right. No, that makes sense. I think that's a positive thing. And even if there has to be a limitation to it, what that percentage is, if they're looking for a setback.
They usually,
I've seen some applications where it's gone from 3 meters to 1 meter or 5 meters to 1 meter. And is that appropriate without having consultation with the community or with the?
usually they would set the range. So what is the
Yes.
of a minor? So
Okay.
for us, the staff to render the minor variance provision,
Right,
like what's the percentage? Like
Right,
percentage, if
yes.
it's more than 50%, then it's not minor, so it would definitely trigger the
Okay.
council's discretion.
Yeah.
But that is something that district would continue to work on if there is a desire.
okay, thank you. Dean?
So council has provided direction to staff, and we're anticipating that coming forward this fall for the delegation component. The variance process would be similar to what we do now. The neighbors would still get the notification.
Okay.
If the input would come back, the planner would evaluate it, and based on criteria that council set, decide whether it can be approved or not at a staff level. If it's deemed to be that the neighbors are upset, or if there's some other problem, then it goes to council in the normal process. So it's only if, so it is like you described,
Yeah,
from 1.8 meters to 1.5 meters, nobody has any input.
right.
Instead of having to wait for 6 weeks to have that go through committee and then go to council, staff would have the delegated authority to then approve that, which would allow the building permit to proceed.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yes, Malcolm?
So process, does this committee have to make a recommendation to council for council to direct staff, or how do we get that?
So this is more just information for the committee on what's being done.
Right.
Council's already provided that direction to staff on the delegation component,
Okay.
about implementing delegation around development permits. So this is also going to come into play with the OCP update, because we're looking at the OCP to incorporate environmental DPs at a staff level as well.
Right.
So we're not going to be referring our environmental DPs to the province, which can take
The
12 to 18 months.
QEP.
time. That will now be completed by staff.
Okay, great. Great. Okay,
Through the chair. Dean, what's our time right now? So if I put in a basic housing permit, what am I looking at?
You're talking about like a single family building permit?
Sure, whatever. Like what's our average? I don't know what people are doing in town. I'm not building anything lately, but what, if you walk in here, how long are we gonna tell them until they get their permit?
Yeah, through the chair. Well, we've been tracking that all year, so hopefully when we do our like a yearly development services update to council, we'll have some pretty good numbers for you, but the turnaround right now is it's fairly quickly. As you know, we have a contractor working on it and she works outside of our regular working hours, but that doesn't mean that she's not working on the files throughout the week and on weekends. I don't want to give it a timeline, but it's a very quick turnaround right now. And that's like, you know, decks, even single family dwellings, those, you know, I guess, smaller projects that we have going on. If it's a bigger project, it'll take a little bit longer review.
right.
I think we've gone through most of those right now and everyone's under construction, so.
Okay, that's fair.
It's hard to give a number. I don't want to, yeah, I don't
Answer.
this is, but.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Dean?
Hard part of that, and I totally understand where Nicole's coming from. Nicole says a week here, every contractor that comes to the counter is gonna say, well, I've been told it's a week. They
Exactly.
don't have their HPO, they don't have all their engineering, like everything has to be complete for us to do.
Correct. And I get that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and maybe I'll add through the chair, it really depends too, right? We're working a lot with the building community on getting a complete application. So when it does cross the building official's desk, it's a good to go. All they have to do is the plan check and make some notes with the conditions. And then everyone else does the legwork for them at the front desk, which is great.
Oh, and it's probably also based on load. You may get
Oh.
15 applications this month,
Hmm.
right? Where you've got more to go through and maybe there's only 5 next month. So does that impact your timing? Can it?
Yeah, it could. Yeah, I mean, I think we would anticipate that for the spring. I mean, we're always encouraging people to apply as soon as possible. If they want to construct in the spring, then we're not rushing. But yeah, it could.
Okay, good. All right, are we good to move on to the next subject? Okay, June? Or is it, you've got the housing needs report? Are we done with B? Okay.
It's a second memo if chair, you deems it appropriate, so to move on. Yeah, it's for this implementation.
Okay.
We're still on 4B.
What agenda topic is it?
This is.
Or C, is this not C? Okay,
Okay, thank you.
go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Just to give a quick update on the strategy 6 implementation plan. So staff was recently advised that if the staff could provide a brief summary of where the committee and then the district is at with the implementation of the housing piece of a previous plan, the recognized previous plan. Just to go over a number of the things. Overall, in a very brief summary, I believe that the district has been continuously in alignment to what the previous plan recognized as a priority. There are a number of the things that we may appear to be slightly behind it, but those are anticipated to be addressed through the upcoming OCP update and then the follow-up the zoning bylaw update. Number of the thing that was deemed as still in process, those are just like the way we saw from the previous pre-review plan library memo. It's not just us, but also the province and federal government who's working on those. So there are a number of the instruments that provincial governments are introducing. So as long as we continue to follow and then implement their recommendations, we will address all the aspect that was identified as priorities in here. Just to go over very quick projects that are quite significant for the past year is the adoption of the small scale multi-unit housing bylaw. So this was the zoning bylaw amendment to render number of the flexibility for the general residential zones. So they got some benefits in regards to the density and also the parcel coverage and then the degree of a setback and height relaxations. So when we went at the step level, reviews a lots of applications, especially for the secondary suite or the primary or accessory dwelling unit, single detached. There are a number of applications that would have required a development variance permit year and a half ago, but it's not thanks to the SSMUH bylaw. So that's a one major piece that is helping the implementation of what committee recognized before to be quite in line. The other is a pre-reviewed plan library. So as briefly noted, 3 design, we can finalize it. Other 3, we are still waiting. We can connect with the house and if they desire to complete and finish the leftover drawing promise. If they are not, then we may use or consider to reallocate that budget into something else. Or we can possibly utilize the provincial or federal drawings. There are a number of large development that greatly boost and meets our strategic priority identified before. The one good example is 316 Gordon Monroe Lane, and the other is 425 Main Street. As we can see, they are built quite fast. There are other things that we also worked on, which is DCC reduction bylaw, which directly meets what was identified before through the plan, and adoption of the tax exemption for senior housing. So there are lots of things that district has been progressively implementing to ensure concurrence to the previous plans. 2 major pace that is coming that could further help this plan to be vivified. One is, as mentioned before, official community plan update. This is anticipated to be completed by the end of this year. And then the next one is a follow-up zoning bylaw update, which is anticipated to be occurring in first quarter of 2026. It's not confirmed, that's just anticipation, but that's to align better with the OCP update completed by the end of this year. Just to provide the quick statistics as the housing committee may be interested in. So last year's December 11th, the District of Sycamus recognized the interim housing need assessment report. And then through that report, we identified the number of the units that would require to satisfy 5 years or 20 years mark. So just to briefly discuss the 5-year marks, we would need 227 units. And then based on all the development that is going on at the present, it would actually surpass the 230 units. So we are actually in a very good process to realize a lot of things. And then that is the number that doesn't consider the lots that was created by the subdivision. So there are, for example, 13 lots were created along the, where is it?
2 miles.
2 miles.
Yeah.
The 13 residential parcels were created and then that was finalized by this year. So that would mean that in an eventual timeline, there will be 13 or possibly 26 more dwelling units that will be contributed to the housing. Also, the other good example may be, although not depicted by the number that I provided, 1,002 seat frontage road. So those are not housing or the multi-unit residential dwelling units, but those are the commercial units that contributes to the establishing better tax basis for the District of Sycamus. But it does come with the possibility that if there is a necessity, they could have what may be referred to as employee dwelling unit. So those are another possibly contributing number of the dwelling units to the future required units to satisfy our needs. So we have some variety of the project that contributes a little bit of a residential part, a little bit of a affordable housing part and other stuff. But it looks like we are on a fairly hopeful track. One thing that I'd like to mention is that when we consider the delivering of the housing units, I would like to inquire the community, maybe not to focus too much on the actual number of the units that we are delivering, but the quality of it, and then the variety of the housing types. So what I, as a staff who's personally interested in numbers, next year's statistics is anticipated to be available around May, I believe. So once that data are coming out, then we can compare how our demographic of the community has moved to. And that would be a good document for us to compare to what we heard from official community plan feedback. So there will be some kind of a memo or the little note from a staff level, I think, that will be available by next year, I think, to either second or third quarter, just to compare those numbers and what it means to us and where we at that point. So that's something that I'm personally excited for.
Thank you. That sounds incredible, because I like the mix. It doesn't just need to be single family dwellings, right? It's a nice across the spectrum. Siobhan.
Yeah, through the chair. And again, just to toot staff's horn here. Malcolm, Councillor McCabe and I were at UBCM. We sat in 5 meetings, and every person we met with was very interested on what we were doing with housing and how we're doing it. And to be able to pull up those numbers and say, actually, like, the cement's being poured, we're not talking about it anymore, it's actually happening. So just a huge shout out to staff for making this happen for us. I've been on this committee, I think, about 2.5 years, no, more than that, maybe 3.5 now. But what we've done in this town is incredible for the size of us, and that actually reflects on staff directly. So thank you, guys.
Ditto. I agree. You guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, I agree. When we're at the UBCM, we're leading. We're in front of a lot of communities, and then looking to us for examples of how we got there, which is a great feeling.
Kudos to staff.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, are you completed? Okay. So then we've got provincial updates. Nicole, can you?
Yep, through the chair. I think it might have been Councillor Rich, you had mentioned, there's always a little bit of downloading coming from the province, and we haven't met since last November. So we collected a couple links that came from the province. This one's one of the oldest ones, but they were talking about housing targets. And what's interesting about this one is this is where they added more communities. Sycamoo's still not impacted, but Salmon Arm was, which of course is our close neighbor, different populations. But I spoke to Salmon Arm, and they said that they're not sure what that actually means for them. Because for us, we're always trying to get our eyes out there and see what could come down for us. But right now, for them, it's a lot of statistics, a lot of tracking, number of bedrooms, number of units, the type of housing, like June was just talking about. And then I think they're just waiting and seeing what that looks like. So we'll keep watching our neighbors. On the next link, June, thank you. Just some more housing targets that came down from the province. Again, Sycamore isn't impacted by this, but we're always watching what's happening around. And then on the last one, which I think is the most recent release, just because we were talking about funding opportunities, this was another announcement that had come through, opportunities to apply for funding that relate to increased housing in the community. Very tiny font. And correct me if I'm wrong, is this the one we've applied for? It might not be, but
No.
there's opportunities out there that we're considering. Other ones that we didn't throw on the agenda, but like June mentioned, we had the development approval procedures. Like, it sounds like there's more funding for communities to improve their processes. For us, I don't know what that would mean because we are quite small. But that's kind of what we've been watching happening around us.
Yes, Malcolm?
So we have some surplus funds in our committee now then, I think, because one of our contractors looks like they're stepping down or terminating or bowing out or whatever. Can those funds get rechanneled back into staff to do those tweaks? You said there's some design tweaks that could use in a building permit process as markups. Instead of them being markup, could we just some of that funding to fine tune those designs so no markups are required?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair. Yes, that's a possibility. So as the staff confirming with the house and the other firm regarding this project that they are stepping down from the project, then we can consider to update the drawing as pre-built drawings as considering the recommendations from building officer. One aspect that I would like to note is that this project, the pre-reviewed plan library, although its name suggests that it's a pre-reviewed, therefore it's a good to go right away. There's a time to time, depending on the properties, there will be little changes that is required, like whether we fully update the like minor drafting matters, accepting the building officer's concern. There still will be some minor markup stuff at the building permit reviewing stage, but it's something that we could consider just to make the drawing more convenient and perceived as a more readily reviewable by the officers.
So are you suggesting then ahead of the requirements or in the process of somebody purchasing a plan and wanting to go ahead and then it needs adjustments?
There is a, from my personal opinion, there is no particular recommendation I can think of. Either way, whether we fix it or we don't fix it, but deal it at the later stage,
Right.
it's a relatively minor matter that it's something that staff may deal within the reviewing scope. So it's really the preference of the community.
Okay. Yes, Siobhan?
Through the chair, I'm just going to go back to what Nicole was saying. And I'm wondering if, like, I know we're applying for some really big grants for our sewer system and kind of keeping that infrastructure up. Is there other opportunities? Because as we put housing in, we absolutely, which we're all very aware that our sewer system needs to be upgraded, and that will be hydro and everything else as a community builds. Is the BC government or federal, to your knowledge, government putting anything out there where we can just get on grant money, so we're not putting it in?
Dean?
So we're applying for a UBCM grant to do a liquid waste management plan. So this is a key plan that we have to have in order to apply for those bigger grants. So we're getting ready for the bigger grants to come from the federal government next year. So that's why we're getting this, making this application now. So we have a liquid waste management plan, which will allow us to apply for our sewer plan. Which those are the critical pieces. So we're getting a grant to get that legwork done. We're not coming back to the taxpayers for that dollar. We're looking for a grant opportunity. The opportunity is there. So if we can get the liquid waste management plan in place, then we apply for the grant. It'll pay for the big infrastructure pieces without having to pay all the money from the taxpayer to actually make those applications. So it's a bit of a pre-planning that we're doing now. Looking for these opportunities. There's lots of grants that are always coming up.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things that we hear the community would like to see, whether it's a spray park, all those kinds of things. There's always grants that are circulating through. We're always watching for them. Where there's an opportunity, we'll loop into that money. Particularly with infrastructure, the big ones are coming next year, apparently. So if we see the big ones, we're going to be going for them. They haven't been released yet, but we're trying to get ready for them by getting, we just had a meeting yesterday with the ministry about our waste treatment. We're working in the background to get everything ready for those applications.
Excellent. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yes, Siobhan?
Just through the chair, again, thank you, Dean and staff. And that's kind of what I wanted just to get out. If anybody is listening to this meeting, is Sicamous is being preemptive, and we're actually working on, we know what's coming in the future. And instead of some of our communities in BC, Mel and I sat in these meetings, and there's some communities in BC that are just panicking because now they're in a position where they have to get things done yesterday. And Sycamoose and our staff has been absolutely like just 7 feet above everybody else that what's going on. So appreciate it, and yeah, keep looking for free money.
Sure.
Justine?
I'm relatively new to the community. I've been here for 6 months, but I've been very, very impressed by how much work staff have done to be proactive, to be aware. Hearing Daryl speak in our meetings with the ministry on the sewer, watching Nicole work with our stuff with the OC, watching Doom with housing. We're really, like you said, like Councillor said, we're ahead of the game. I'm proud to be able to lead this group, but I cannot take credit. This group has done this well in advance of my arrival, and they're working really hard. And it's great to see, because like you said, most communities are not in that scenario. They're panicking because now we have to have a sewer plant next year. What are we gonna do? That's not the scenario we're in, and that's thankful. And that's a lot of people for a lot of years have done a lot of hard work. So we're not in that scenario. It's just good to see.
Thank you.
That's excellent. Okay, are you completed with your report? Okay, any final comments? Because we're done our agenda before we adjourn. Dean?
Comment on these libraries. We did this in Kelowna, a number of projects, very successful one around fourplexes in Kelowna. They did a series of pre-plans for them. I don't think the success of those programs should be measured in the use of the plans as much as the idea of it got people thinking about how to do housing differently. So I wouldn't encourage you to evaluate this process necessarily. Nobody builds these units that we pre-plan. That is not a failure. It's thinking about things differently and having the development community and the building community think outside the box. That's what these plans have done. And whether you're here in Sycamoose or in Kelowna or in Vernon or in Vancouver, very few of these plans have actually resulted in people actually taking that off the shelf and going to a property and building it. Like June said, there's many modifications that have to happen. You got geotechnical information, you got all kinds of things that change things. So the plans have to be amended. But it's not so much that you're giving off the shelf plans to people, you're giving ideas to people of doing something different. Doing, instead of just a big shop in your backyard, a carriage house. Instead of doing a house that maybe doesn't have an opportunity for a secondary suite, you're looking at a house with a secondary suite. So it's the concept of thinking about housing differently that's as effective as the plans themselves. So yeah, you may not ever see the plans get pulled off the shelf and used, but that doesn't mean they weren't successful. They're getting people to talk about something different and talk about housing in a different way. And that's really the critical piece.
Well, it's already given me some ideas just from seeing those provincial ones.
Absolutely.
It's already inspired me to talk to somebody, about that. But are they on our website, or is there an opportunity to have something like that in a common area? There's a lot of people that come in and out of this building that are homeowners, taxpayers, whatever. Like, is it something where it's seen more than just social media? Because I know that social media is just one way to get it out there. And maybe it's something that's featured on our website, either the district's website. I don't know.
I think that there's an opportunity with our OCP coming through for its update for us to promote in the community housing and housing concepts, not so specific of the plans.
Right.
Just thinking about housing in a community, and our OCP is going to come through with housing components to it. We're going to talk about all the different kinds of housing. There's carriage houses, secondary suites, duplexes, multifamily, all those different types of housings. Having something that can be circulated in the community, which will happen as part of our OCP process, will get people talking about it. So I'd encourage that to be followed through. As far as what you guys decide to do as a committee with housing going forward, I think there's a lot of change coming. There's a lot of opportunities that are coming. I would encourage you to continue to push council to maintain your budget. Although you don't have an initiative right now that you're pursuing, if council decides, I don't think that's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea. You don't know what's going to come next year. Having the budget to be able to do the preliminary work, like I described with the sewer plant, being able to do the preliminary work to do a housing initiative in Sycamoose next year, I think is really important. So we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. You have an $18,000 budget. It gives you the seed to be able to apply for bigger grants. A lot of the granting initiatives that are coming now require you to do some study work in advance. So if we have a little bit of seed money, we could hire a housing consultant or a design consultant or somebody to do a little bit of work so that we can get those bigger grants. I think it's well worth its money.
Okay, thank you, Dean. That's very good input. I think that it all makes very good sense, and it's a good overview for us as a committee. If there's no further comments then, or questions, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. So recommendation that the Housing Committee meeting for October the 2nd, 2025 be adjourned, the time being 1:47. Can I have a Malcolm, Siobhan, all in favor? Adjourned.
Perfect.